Or not? Okay, yeah, so this appears to be working. So that's a minor miracle in itself. So I'm just going to do a very, very quick Monday Moments today, really just to try out this live recording thing. So I apologize if you're trying to get through, because obviously this is a completely new process for me. So bear with me and we'll see how this goes. Right, so a couple of questions coming through from this week's sort of questions and comments on the channel. And the first one really is something about dowsing, and it's one that's come up from a few people this week. And they're writing to me to ask, well, I'm using the rods, or I'm using the pendulum, and it's swinging when I sort of, for example, put it over the bed to test for geopathic stress. But they're not clear about whether they're actually asking a specific question before using the pendulum or the rod. Now, dowsing is, as the title of this little video says, dowsing is a two-stage process. So think of it that you have to ask a question to get a response. You can actually just hold rods, for example, and walk around your house, and they will cross and they will point to things without you asking any questions whatsoever. But that's no good, because you don't understand what is actually, what it is that you're being shown. So you have to ask a question. And if you're looking for geopathic stress, then you have to ask a specific question that gives you a very definite yes or no response when you're starting to learn to dowse. Okay. So if you were looking in the bedroom about, are you looking for underground water lines that are detrimental to you, then you would ask something like, is there any influence from detrimental water line in this room? And that would give you a yes or a no. If it gives you a yes, obviously using the rods, if that gives you a yes, ask to be shown where the highest concentration of that detrimental energy is, and then follow where the rods show you. And when you get to that point, they will cross. So that is what I mean by using a two-stage process. Ask the question and get the response with the rods or with a pendulum. Okay. An example that I do tell people is that I visited a stone circle where there were quite a group of novice dowsers. They weren't actually with me, but they were a group of novice dowsers, and they were all standing and entering the circle with their rods and testing it, and they're all amazed and perplexed and confused that when they entered the circle, they were getting a positive reaction. The rods moved. And when they left the circle, they were getting a negative reaction. And this was like a big revelation to them. But of course it isn't, because it doesn't mean anything at all unless you ask a question that gives you some kind of sense and puts into context what the yes, the positive response is, and the no, the negative response. Okay, so hopefully that's helped. So always think of dowsing as a two-stage process. It's rather like using a computer. If you put rubbish in, then the answers you get back are rubbish as well. Okay, so the second thing is there was a specific question that I had on dowsing, another one on dowsing, but I don't know what that was. I've forgotten, so sorry about that. Now, I did have a question from somebody who, in fact, I've had a couple of people this week again, who are in the process of having to move house, having to move from where they're living, or the potential threat of them having to move house has come up for them. And they're both not wanting to. They don't want to have to move out of their flats and their houses, but it looks like circumstances dictating that they will. So I've been having email exchange with them about this, and of course, our natural instinctive reaction as human beings is to say, no, 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 we don't want to go. We love it here. We don't want to go, because, that's our resistance to change. What we forget is, if we look at it all from a spiritual perspective, as spiritual beings, then actually as our energy changes, and both these people have been doing work on themselves, quite extensive work on themselves as it happens. So as our energy changes inside, then the world that we live in changes. And this is the point, this is why we actually do the work, because we are trying to get the best possible results in our external reality, in our seemingly external world. So So really, it's not a question of trying to hang on in there and stay put, because what you're then doing when you're resisting the universe, basically suggesting, well, perhaps this, your reality has come to a point where it now wants to look different to you. So you're resisting that, and you're putting the brakes on, and you're hanging in there for grim death, and using quite a lot of energy actually to hang on in there. And one of these guys, I don't think he'll mind if I mention his name, Billy, was saying, well, surely we manifest and create our own reality. Yeah, but we don't do it. We don't do it 100% ourselves. Manifesting, despite what The Secret may have led you towards, it's not just from us. This is why I refer to humanity as co-creators, because it's not just us. It's a three-stage process. It's us, the management, in other words, God, the divine, and earth energy. And earth energy is the mechanism of the change. It's the thing that carries our energy of thinking, our energy of thought out to wherever it goes through the dimensions to the creator, and carries the information back into our processing so that we actually perceive the world has changed. Okay, so think of ourselves, it's really difficult to take ourselves out of the human form, the physical form, all the time. I mean, it's virtually impossible. But in circumstance where we're faced with what appear to be big obstacles, like having to move out, having to move the whole family out to go somewhere else to live, then try to look at it from a spiritual perspective and say, well, okay, so this has occurred. Why has this occurred? What is it showing me? Is this a time for me to actually just ask the questions of my spirit guide, for example, if you're in contact with that guide? What's going on? Why is this happening? Am I supposed to, am I supposed to just let go, or, should I take some other kind of action to find out what the issue is? So I'm not a great fan of just surrendering and allowing life to throw us around all over the place, because as I say, as part of this three-way process in co-creating, then we have an obligation, if you like, to actually put some energy in and see what comes back from the universe, because it's a dance that we carry out all the time between us as co-creators, through the earth energy to the creative force, to the divine, to God, to the management, and they respond. So we take action, or they take action, we react, they react, we react, they react, we react. And it's that mindful observation of how the world reacts and responds to what we have put out, which is the key to actually finding the peaceful path. And the peaceful path doesn't necessarily mean that you are going to have an easy life, or that your flow through it is not going to be unexpected. What it means is you will find support, and you will feel supported through the process, because you are in connection with the process itself. Okay, so hopefully that makes some sense. And the other thing is, the last thing on this is, I just want to make you aware that I have finally got a list of workshops that I'm running this year up on my website. There'll be a link in the comment section below. And most of them are going to be held up here in Yorkshire, North Yorkshire, up towards the Scottish border, believe it or not. But we are doing two. Adrian Incledon-Webber and I are doing two workshops down near Avebury again this year. They're based on the Spirit and Earth book. And so we'll be covering a lot of topics, including elementals and healing, and ancestor healing as well, as part of that, really, we're going to touch on. And they're always really, really good fun. We're holding them at a little hall in Bishop's Cannings, which is a lovely, lovely location. And like I say, we will be visiting Avebury and some other sacred sites in the area. So that's the Southern workshop. There's two of those. Adrian and I presenting those together. The other workshops are up here. We spend one day here at my home. The other day will probably be in a local hall in Reeth. And we have this year actually got the opportunity to do a creative living landscape workshop, which is about really making use of our intuition in a creative sense, painting, sketching, drawing, that sort of thing. You don't have to be an expert at any of those crafts to join in. It's about exploring our connection, and I'm running that jointly with a lady called Jenny Parks, and she's been an art teacher for a fair number of years, but she's a lovely lady and is really connected spiritually, and she has an amazing way of actually getting people to be creative and just to relax and to enjoy the time. And what I hope from that is that we actually start to experience our connection in the physical world as well as the intuitive world, and we can use that creative power. And once you've kind of established that feeling and that link, which you can get through that kind of activity, then you can connect back to that feeling on a day-to-day basis in your life. So even if you spend a couple of days up here in the countryside and go through that creative process, when you get back to the city, if that's where you work, then you can still be in touch with that energy. So lots of things coming up this year, and we're already in March. It's amazing. So I hope all this has worked for you. Do leave a comment, do leave a question, drop me a line if you'd like. It is getting difficult for me to reply to all of the questions and emails that you send through on email. If you can, the best thing is to either hook up with me on Facebook or leave a comment on YouTube. Then I can deal with everything in one place, but that's just my own kind of process. So bear with me while we do all this, and there we go. I hope that's been helpful for you. Take care now. Bye-bye.